But I'm sure in the last year you've gone on YouTube and you've figured out how to fix something that you aren't qualified to fix. And it's cost you nothing.
Yep.
And so the power of distributed manufacturing and the power of the distribution of knowledge is that we can now have a very efficient system of creating things, of making things, of repairing things, of creating wealth and value.
From a specialized machine builder to a global tech company, GenderMark Automation continues to drive forward-thinking tech solutions, and now we're talking the fourth industrial revolution. Join us on our journey as we talk to industry experts and discover the incredible people behind the technology. We're making the fourth industrial revolution more human.
He is using technology to uplift our disadvantaged communities. He's a trained engineer, teacher, artist, and entrepreneur. He's a dynamic voice in the world of technology and innovation. He's a founder at the MakerSpace Foundation, a master at demystifying technology and unpacking the human implications of our rapidly changing world. He offers an entertaining and insightful look behind the technology curtain. From TEDx to Tech People Talk, please help me welcome Steve Gray. Steve, what an amazing opportunity it is for you to be joining us. We really appreciate that you came down to PE to have a conversation with us. I am really excited about the conversation we're going to have today. But before we get into the conversation, Yanesh, do you mind telling us what we are in and what this production line is about?
Evening, Goodwill. Evening, Steve. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate that. Goodwill, we are in the center of a differential assembly line, one of the bigger projects we've done at GenderMark. And the goal of this production line is to assemble a differential and an axle for one of our customers approximately every 65 seconds.
Wow. And Steve, how do you feel about, because you're the guest, right? How does it feel to actually be in a production line in a
Well,
factory?
my son would want to know whether it's a limited slip differential or if you have that capability, because he's getting into drifting. He's very interested in the whole idea.
It's got an electronic diff lock.
Okay, nice.
So it's going into a bucky, so there's no limited slip diff, but it's got an electronic diff lock at least.
Look, this is the ideal factory because you guys aren't actually running, because a real factory isn't as fun to be in, and it's quite a lot noisier. So it's really fun to set up all the equipment and get it working and dial it in and make it do what it's designed to do. And then, it's a tough environment to work in. I think we all appreciate that. People who have to work on assembly lines in factories are doing something that's difficult and it's strenuous and it's creating a benefit for everyone who ends up benefiting from these products.
Wow. So to get into the conversation, I heard from the grapevine that when you started the MakerSpace, you were in search of purpose. Can you tell us a bit more about that and give us an introduction into who Stephen Gray is?
Cool. Yeah, no. So I think that we all need to find purpose in order to be motivated. And I started my career as an engineer. I started manufacturing, and I didn't feel that I was achieving the purpose that I was created for. And I didn't really know what that was, but I just knew I wasn't doing it. I tried all sorts of different things. I went through many departments. I actually applied to be a director of the business I was working for, and I would say they laughed me out the room, but they thought I was a little bit young to be putting my hand up for that. And so in my search for purpose at work, in terms of what we do, we spend 75% or 70% of our time at work. It's a significant amount of our waking hours. And so it's really important that what we do energizes us, makes us better people, not strips us away and drains us of our life just to survive for that 3-week holiday we get in December. And I think that's kind of been something I've always thought about and in some ways always been searching. But when I got to a point where I started a financial service company, and that was a great company, did very well. But eventually I was just done. I was tired and burnt out, and I had to just give it up and leave and reboot. And so that was when I was really searching, what can I do that's meaningful in the world? And I did learn a lot in financial services. It's a sales environment. And when you look at sales, you look at a production line like this and you can get confused. You think that these machines are doing all the work. but the machines are a byproduct of people. People have built the machines and people operating the machines, maintaining the machines. And so when you optimize and mechanize things to a point where you think the machines do all the work, you can get into trouble. And when you strip all that away and you have something which is like a sales business, which my dad would say, what are you guys making here? You're not doing anything, But actually, you're providing service, you're providing value to people. And you realize that the people are the machine, the people are the system. And so how do you get the most out of people? How do you optimize people? So I always sort of saw it as an engineer as, base level engineering is using gears. Gear, the teeth, mesh each other. And if you match them, great, everything works fine. But level 2 is when the gears are made of like flesh and bones, and they don't quite mesh that well. And then, they get upset if you swear at them. And then suddenly the gears don't mesh and the machine doesn't work properly. It's a lot more complicated and complex machine. And it requires a lot more thought and empathy and a whole tool set that as engineers generally don't get given. And that sort of is an interesting thing about me as an engineer, is I never really felt like an engineer. I was more of an artist, actually, in terms of my school years. And so I was more interested in people and how people can be unlocked and, optimizing people. So that's basically what ended me up at the Makerspace, to answer the question in a very long way. And for me, the Makerspace was something that came to me literally in a moment, where a culmination of a whole lot of things that I'd been thinking about, which was things that motivate me were creativity, technology, and people. So how do we get all three of those things working together? And how do I get a creative environment where we're playing with technology, we're innovating, and we're also developing people? And that's been the mission of the Makerspace, to try and unlock people in a physical way, unlock their creativity. And it's quite interesting because very recently I came across an analysis and a system for human resources, and which is called the working genius. And I've been talking about people having a genius for the last 10 years. And I really believe that each person has a form of genius inside them. And it's very different depending on who you're talking to and who you are. And the genius of being a mother, and a person who's like a super mom, who can just maintain, 5 kids screaming at the same time, makes a really good teacher and makes a really good, sort of role model to other mothers who sort of struggling with one kid. And so that genius can be unlocked, and that person can bring value to the world. The same with we talk about an operator on the production line. Certain people have got certain geniuses where they're really good at something, and the world rewards types of genius, like intelligence and what else? The genius of being able to create wealth, charisma, those kind of sports, those kind of geniuses get a lot of press. But some of the other sort of empathy and people who are caring, it's a lot harder to be recognized. So anyway, one of our goals is to unlock people, unlock their potential, and specifically around physical things, making actual, not software, not art and music, but actual things.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful answer.
I love the concept of the genius within us. Everyone has a genius within you. I think that's such a powerful statement, and it's unfortunate that we live in a society, like you say, that only certain geniuses or genius types are recognized.
Yeah.
Like the supermom, since having a kid, I'm blown away by the things my wife is able to do, and it is really genius. It is genius,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, it's not recognized.
Yeah.
In the society we live in. It's
When
a really
we-
interesting concept.
When we flew from Joburg the other day, I was sitting next to a mom with a small toddler, and the way she was managing that boy, he was sick, and she was basically telling us stories of, we're getting off, just relax, calm down, rubbing his ears. And I thought, man, mothers need to be given more roses,
Yeah.
more credit. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
No doubt about that. So Steve, you spoke, and I really have a sort of common passion for really unlocking human potential. And we live in a world where there's an abundance of technology. We've never had the opportunities that we have now from a technology perspective. What's your take on how we can actually use this tech to unlock human potential? You've spoken at a few places, and you've spoken about the Uberization of things.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
So let's start with defining technology, because that's a word that we use a lot, but we don't always know what it means. So I know what the dictionary definition is.
Yep.
'Cause
So yeah, what's Steve's definition?
What's your definition of technology?
Honestly, never thought about it.
So the dictionary says it's the scientific application, or it's the application of scientific knowledge for a meaningful purpose.
Okay.
So for something productive, generally meaning, developing things. So the application of scientific knowledge. So I often tell people when we're talking about technology, they think, oh, okay, it's digital, it's VR, it's all these crazy things that scare them. And actually what it is just the application of something that we already have worked out, like making a fire. We as South Africans love to make braais,
Yep.
So we get our coals, and we all got a different technique. I like to do the pyramid technique, although more recently I do like the firewood, the old Nordic stack.
Yeah, that's why when you go and visit somebody, you never stack the wood in somebody else's braai.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's just not on, right?
We've all got our own technique, but that is a technology. We've harnessed a technology around wood and around coal and around charcoal and firelighters, and even if we didn't have the processed stuff, we could still make a fire. Something we've understood and applied to cook meat. And so when you talk about technology, people aren't thinking about making a braai. They're thinking, and so the answer to the question firstly is, what is technology? And if technology is a way to be productive, for me, all it is a big lever. It's something that multiplies force.
Yep.
So if you do something manually, it takes a lot of time. And if you use technology, you can make more things in the same amount of time. And I think what the danger is people get addicted to that as if it's a drug, and then they want to just keep making more and more and more, more and more efficiency, and they start to lose track of what the cost of that is. So if you give someone who's an artisan who makes a very beautiful product, from Italy, and he's a leather worker, you give him some technology, some tools, like he has a needle, he doesn't have to like bite the stuff. He's going to use scissors, he's going to use technology. So he has a new technology that can help you. Now, he might have a debate because it's not the way he learned, but maybe he's stuck in a little bit of traditional mindset. But if you can explain to him how it's going to help him make a better product, he'll be in, because ultimately that's his goal. That's what he lives for, to make this really good product. But if you fast forward and you keep expanding and you automate and you compromise on the quality over time, in order to increase your volumes, you end up with a product that's got no soul. And it actually, it might be a very low price point, and you might mass consumerism, might make money. But at the end of the day, when somebody wants to own something, to have something, they want something of value, of quality, of something of meaning, And so technology can be used to an extreme where we lose track of the soul of things. So I think for me, technology is a tool and a lever, and that's how it should be used. And it should never be used to replace humans, and it should never be used at the cost of humans. It should be used to improve and enhance what we do. And we've got to also look, as getting to kind of the time that we are in, and the sort of global crisis of climate change that we're in, and climate impact. We've got to start looking past the benefit just to a few people. We've got to say, like, what's the global benefit or global cost of something? And so when we look at technology, we've also got to add up, the costs of things. So did you know that NFTs cost, okay, now I can't remember the number now, but 13 kilowatts.
Yep.
13 kilowatt hours,
Yep.
or 23 kilowatt hours or something. It's a significant amount of energy.
Yep.
So NFTs, we can make some money on our digital art, but actually every time we transact, it's going to cost the planets something. And until we get to a point where we're running completely on renewable energy,
there's a carbon cost to a Bitcoin transaction.
Yeah,
a much bigger carbon cost than what people think.
Bitcoin by design is inefficient, but
yeah.
Anyway, it's these small things that you think you only, if you're not having a circular mindset and you only think of your little world, you've got your production line, that if you get X amount of units out, you make X amount of money. So you want 2X, so you get 2X, but what's the impact on your employees? What's the impact on the environment? What's the impact on, that's where we talk about triple bottom line, being around, great term, but really when you do a tax return, There's nowhere to put that stuff in.
Yep.
No one really cares.
Yep.
When you get your payments at the end of the month, there's no like triple bottom line payments. You get paid in money. And so, the system that we live in, it works and it's efficient, but we should be looking to improve it. And we shouldn't be satisfied and just status quo,
Yeah.
I am very fascinated by your answer, especially when you're talking about unlocking the human potential. And I know that the Makerspace is all about that, right? It's like unlocking the human potential. But can you please explain to us what it actually is? What is the Makerspace? And why are you guys so driven to unlock the human potential?
So the Makerspace is a place, a physical place. It's a community of people, and the type of people who try and help each other, share knowledge, things that they've learnt, and work together for the common aim of teaching people how to make things more efficiently, and make things they've never made before. Not even more efficiently, but just so. As a kind of maker, a person who likes to make things, I know that there's a value in making something for myself. Not everyone actually appreciates that, but I've done enough workshops. We've done over 450 workshops. So I've done enough workshops with all different types of people to realize that it's universal. Like somebody makes something, it's theirs. It didn't just buy it. It didn't just get made in some factory with you don't know who made it for you. It's yours. You made it. Now it has value to you, more than the cost, and you can pass that value on, give it to someone you love, keep it and cherish it. So if you think about people who like brought up in difficult circumstances, and maybe their family members have died, maybe they haven't had the same values instilled in them, they haven't had the same opportunities to appreciate the world around them. They've just grown up to survive. And the world's a tough place, and they may not see any value in themselves because no one's ever told them they have any value. Maybe people have told them the opposite, that they've got no value, they're worthless. How do you help someone out of that situation? Now, you can give them therapy, and there's ways you could approach it. But one way you can is you can teach someone how to make something, and when they start making something, it's a natural byproduct that you start to appreciate yourself because you made this thing. And that means if this thing's worth something, that means you're worth something. And you can see how in time, as you get better at making something, you get more credit for that thing, and you start to get more pride in yourself. Like, yes, I am this very good shoemaker, or this very good, whatever it is you do. For me personally, I don't make one thing. Like I'm fairly good at making new things, like different things. So I like to make, a thing, and then I've done it, I want to go make something else. But someone who makes something, start to see value in themselves, and then they start to create value for the world around them, in the world around them. And I really like the idea of distributed manufacturing. And I mean, Yanesh, what does that mean to you, distributed manufacturing, in terms of your context?
So I've kind of got two hats on with regards to distributed manufacturing. I think the first one is I believe it's the only opportunity we've got to unlock the youth in developing countries, is this notion of distributed manufacturing, because it's a share of the wealth. It's an opportunity for people to create their own little businesses in a distributed manner using digital tech to enable that. So that's the one hat that I've got on, because I think it's the only opportunity we've got from an African perspective and developing country perspective. The other hat is telling me that if the world wants individualized everything, there's also a real opportunity not just to empower people, but to satisfy consumer demand for individualization of everything. We spoke about the example of washing powder or a wallet or anything. It's toothpaste. You could customize toothpaste based on whatever you would like. And I think distributed manufacturing really enables that. So those are the two things that fascinate me about distributed manufacturing, that we can individualize everything and really unlock or solve the unemployment issue amongst the youth. So those are the two things that are interesting for me.
And I think when you started your career and I started my career, and you wanted to, what was your first car?
A City Golf.
Okay. Hey, me too.
Yeah.
City Golf, right? 1.3. I don't know if you
1.3
Okay,
with biscuit wheels on.
Okay.
There you go, white.
Yeah, okay, I had a red one, and it always felt hot. Eh?
Maybe I
Yeah.
must get a black one.
Yes,
right,
I
that's the
wish,
first
eh?
car. City
Yeah.
Golf.
No aircon. Mine
No,
was
no,
just windows down. So if your car, something went wrong. I remember somebody broke into my car and had to replace the handle. How was I going to figure out how to do that? So my dad had to show me. He happened to have worked on his VW, which was a VW Bug, in the 70s.
Yep.
And he showed me how the mechanism, he really kind of knew how it probably worked. And he
the
was like,
concept of it.
he was like, there'll be a screw there, you unscrew that screw, and then there'll be a clip on the other side. And you're like, oh, okay. And then in retrospect, you realize, like most cars have that same system. So that was the method that we had to use to repair something. And if we wanted to make something as well, someone would have had to teach us. And we were limited by whoever was close in our proximity. So luckily enough, my dad had a VW Beetle. If not, I would have been stuck. I would have had to pay someone to come fix my car. Fast forward to today. So I don't know if you still do any car repairs, maintenance or whatever, but I'm sure in the last year you've gone on YouTube and you've figured out how to fix something that you aren't qualified to fix. And it's cost you nothing.
Yep.
And so the power of distributed manufacturing and the power of the distribution of knowledge is that we can now have a very efficient system of creating things, of making things, of repairing things, of creating wealth and value. So for me, the sort of dream is, could you have these little centers where you can bring people together and collectively learn and share equipment, teach each other sort of different things. Get the water quickly. And then could you have these around the country, around the continent, so people can come together and they can make things that they need to make, they want to make, that the market is asking for. So the MakerSpace is sort of a prototype around distributed manufacturing, but very much from bottom up approach. So what's your definition of, if you think about manufacturing, bottom up manufacturing, bottom up economy, and top down economy?
Yeah, look, I think it depends on your I guess your drivers and how you see the world. If you take the pure capitalist approach, it's obviously a top down, and supply and demand, and mass production, drop the cost as much as possible. Who cares who suffers along the way? We gotta meet the demand.
Yeah.
Whereas if you taking the sort of distributed economy perspective, I think, and what I hope the future becomes is a lot more human. Using technology to empower humans, and you take a bottom up approach.
Yeah.
Where these individuals are actually determining the outcome, as opposed to being pawns in a big chess game.
But what you said earlier about the market wanting to have their own unique, customized product, is that not the bottom-up economy? Is that not the people telling the companies what they want?
Yep.
Compared to the bottom-down, which is like the Apple iPhone is going to come out and it's going to have this much storage and this many cameras, and you got to wait and see what it is and what color, and if there's colors or not, that's too bad. You get one option.
Yep.
So, I think the world is getting to a point where people are starting to demand that they have the say, and that they're part of the design or creation or of products and services.
Yep.
And companies that sort of try to ride that traditional top-down, we'll tell you what you need, are starting to become under pressure.
Yep.
So if you get to a true bottom-up economy where you've got people being able to determine what they want, and then the market or the mechanism that manufactures those products being able to adapt to that batch size of one, then you can get to a really efficient and sort of, not just, it's like we can have the same stuff and more efficient, but we can have much better outcomes, because you can partner. It's like matchmaking. You're limited by who's in the network, but when the network connects everyone, now you can have the best shoe designer in the world who does white sneakers work on your sneaker, and and so I think the opportunity that the fourth industrial revolution is bringing, and the revolution in the fourth industrial revolution, which I just want to put on record, whenever I talk about 4R, I always make it clear, like it's revolution. Like it's not 4R, it's not 4.0, it's not, don't try and, the revolution normally means a forceful overthrow of an existing system.
Yep.
So forceful overthrow, and we talked about the Kodak earlier, Kodak, sorry.
Yep.
Where Kodak invented the digital camera, and then they liquidated, a couple of years ago because they were redundant because they make film, and film's no longer a thing. Printing photos was taken over by digital photography and digital photo sharing. And so, yeah, I think I don't know where I was going with that, but
Have a sip of water.
pick it up, passing the ball.
Yeah. So I've got to follow on that. Earlier when we were speaking, you spoke about the gentleman that was making the wallet, and it actually wasn't the technology that was the barrier for him to be successful. I'd really love for you to share that story, because I think there's some important points there that enlightened me that it's not the technology only.
Yes.
Maybe just talk to us about
Yeah,
that.
sure. So Skulile, like a young guy, we do a sort of graduate support thing where guys who do a technical degree in engineering, mechatronics, it's a 2-year tech, not a very high level degree in QF levels and whatever. And then they need a year of experience, and they battle to find work experience. Mangosuthu, I think, is one of the worst rated universities, and they generally come from very poor backgrounds. They've gone on the government-funded program, which is great, but they have no network. First generation going to study, And so, they come into this environment and they see all this stuff, and they're like, okay, this is cool, but they don't always know how to activate and how to use it and how to network and how to make. We'll bring in a speaker, and I ask them afterwards, did you guys get his number? Did you make contact? They're like, no. It's like, well, you're going to get stuck. You need to use these opportunities. So Skulile came and he did the program, and then he was battling to find work. And he was actually battling, one, because of his health, and two, because of he wasn't able to speak English very clearly. And he battled for about 6 months, and he was trying to start his own little business, and we were trying to help him at the MakerSpace, because we've got technology there, CNC machines and hobby style, but laser cutters. But you could start a small little hobby business if you had the right background and you had the right network. You could supply your mates with chopping boards and who knows what. But he didn't have any of that. So one of the things we showed him was a pattern that we had made for leather wallets, and it was something we had done in our workshops. And we knew what it was worth. It was 350 Rand, and we had a design you could laser cut it in 2 minutes on the machine. So with that, he went on, started making these wallets and selling them. When he first wanted to sell them, when he first joined our space, I asked him, what do you think something like this is worth? And he said, no, 150 Rand. That's the value of it, because that's what, from his background, it was worth. And I explained to him that 150 Rand is not worth making. I said that they cost 350, and then he thought, okay, well, he would never buy it. But when he went to the market with this product, and he went to the market at the price we said, it's 350, and here's the pattern, he just had that product market fit almost instantly. So he went on Twitter, he got picked up, and he started selling. And I realized at that point that the unlock isn't the skills so much as teaching him how to use a laser. I mean, that's part of it. But there's much more that's required to be successful, and a lot of it we take for granted. And some of it's soft skills, things like taking orders and being on time. A lot of that is sort of, you can pick up and you can, be coached. But some of the things you can't be coached, and some of the problems that I battled with when I left engineering and went into my own business is like, how do you price things? What is it supposed to cost? Your competition's not going to tell you that. Your customers aren't going to tell you that, because they're going to want to lie to you, both of them. And so you sort of guess, and if you sort of cocky enough, maybe you put a high price and you do well. And if you're sort of a little bit too helpful, you end up suffering and you do badly, And so for him, and for I think a lot of young people who are in this situation where they have no other choice but to be self-employed, what we can do to help them is to try and show them the sort of pricing and how to price the products, and then also give them the design that the market wants. And so, if we had asked him to design his own wallet at that point, he probably wouldn't have had product market fit. In retrospect, now that he's got a little platform, base model, his most popular units, he can start, iterating, and he can start seeing what, and he's now, far exceeded our designs, and he's doing some fantastic work. But that baseline, that little starter pack, super powerful.
Speaking of that, Steve, I personally as well, when I started working, I struggled with knowing how to, what should a salary look like? Like, if somebody was to ask me right now, how much do you charge per hour? It sounds like a pathetic question, but you go to universities and you ask graduates, like, okay, so you're going into the industry, what are you worth? It is such a difficult question to answer, and I'm very interested in that. So how do you then like teach that as a skill for people to understand their self-worth in that regard?
So when you become an entrepreneur, or you hit the coalface of self-employment, it actually doesn't matter what anyone thinks. It doesn't matter what any university tells you, what degree you have, what degree you don't have. The mechanism is cash, is money, right? So what value you can add to the market is what value you can charge for. The first thing is knowing that you have value. So firstly as a person, but secondly the skills and the things that you have. And so there's two double-sided sword. You have people who think they have value to add, but they don't really. So they go out there and they talk a good game, but they don't really have much substance. And then you have people who have real actual value, but they just don't see it as value. So I went to a TVET college training thing, and we were doing some breakaway groups, talking in little work groups. And some of the guys in the groups were TVET students, some were educators, funders, industry. And we were workshopping this idea of entrepreneurship. And she was an electrician, qualified. She said, we can't get work because we don't have experience. So if we go and apply for work as an electrician, they say you've got no experience. But if we apply as like a helper to an electrician, they say, no, you're overqualified. So we're stuck, we don't know. So anyway, I don't have a job. So what I do on the weekend is I go and I sell food. I make hamburgers and sell food and everything. But so I said, oh, so you're an entrepreneur? She said, no, I'm not an entrepreneur. I just do that just to make enough money, just to pay the bills. I'm an electrician, but I'm not employed. And it was like, no, you're an entrepreneur by definition. You're a business, you're self-employed, you're making money. That's why anyone does what they do, so they can pay the bills, So just go and do that full time, go and do that every day. You obviously got a skill, you enjoy. And for her, it was like this aha moment. Like, she thought entrepreneurship was like this thing you see on the cover of a magazine, and you got like some like really successful guys who they know what they're doing. And then she just saw herself more as an artisan, like, I can go and do electrical because I've been taught everything. She didn't see herself as someone who could add value in the world. So for her, what does she earn? Whatever she can sell a hamburger for, and however many hamburgers she can sell, that's what she can earn. For us, we've obviously, like, when I talked about being in the financial service industry, the one question that you have to ask everyone when you're in that industry is how much do you earn every month? And so we learned how to ask that question, and you just ask it straightforward, and you look down at your paper and you wait for the answer, and everybody, 99.9% of people will tell you. And because it seems like, okay, well, I've got to tell the person, and you tell. It's a fact.
It's mandatory.
And one of the interesting things is that doing that hundreds of times is you start seeing where the money is earned, and you find that the guy who's a plumber, who drives a little Hilux, got a few plumbers that, run around, do the hard work, the oak's making like 150, 200K a month, and you got another guy who's a director, and he's got the title, and you're seeing him in his boardroom, and he's maybe not even clearing 100K. And you start to see that actually there's a whole nother world out there. And like you said, as a graduate, you don't know. A lot of cultures, people don't talk about these things. Fathers don't talk about it with their children. Everybody just goes out there like, sort of, you're a little bit like a lamb to the slaughter, If you have a good boss who's generous and a good company, they look after you, and hopefully they explain to you what you're worth and how you can be worth more. But if you go to sort of the markets, who knows what you're going to get. And I think that's one of the things where, for the MakerSpace and what we do, generosity is one of our values. So we really do try and teach people and give as much as we can, as much information and knowledge as being able to have the resources to give, like money, we wish. But just there's so much that we know that this is the we talked about the third industrial revolution, which is about access to information. We're only starting to get to the benefit of that now. The fact that you can actually go, there's like a website, Glass Ceiling, you can go and see what everyone else is earning in your category. I think it's American based, so it's not going to necessarily help us, but we have technology to be able to ask these questions. There's forums, you can find out nowadays. And so that's where we start leveraging that technology to empower people. So that's how we kind of do the enterprise development thing. We've actually formalized that now. We've got like BEE certification. We're trying to make it a product that the market can support us with, and we can give them something back. But ultimately, we're trying to help people to be more, to do more, to achieve more, and to solve this crisis that we started talking about earlier, which is the youth unemployment crisis. And I will say this: there is no quick fix. No. Having done this for 8 years now, Skulile was with us for. We were doing the work for 3 or 4 years before I really saw this fruit. In his life, he came through this thing that, there was years of investment and trying and erroring, and suddenly saw this success case and be like, wow, okay, there's something there. What else can we learn? But enterprise development is and entrepreneurship and all of these things are a long game. And so anyone who thinks they can do it in 6 months or part-time course, or I don't know. I think there's other things we can do, like we talk about the Uber economy. Get someone who's already got a thing and plug them into a demand. I don't know how many technical people are out there that if we could find a way to help them get their services into the market, their 3D drawing and their design services and their technical drawing, and feed that into like international market for design and engineering. There's got to be some potential, unlock there. And I think one of the solutions for me, the real solution for unemployment in South Africa, is to provide skills internationally via the internet. Not going to be for everyone, but I think there's more work out there than there is people unemployed in South Africa.
And I think it's got to start small, and like you say, it takes time. It might be one design skill that you can offer to the rest of the world, which will then result in 2 and 3 and 4, but you can't start out with 1,000. For sure. So firstly, amazing work at MakerSpace, Steve. Well done. It's not often that you come across somebody that's really as passionate as you are about really making people better. And you've been able to connect your hobby and your interest with that and align a business together. I think that's really, really commendable.
Questionable about the business part.
But you like you say, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? But I guess COVID hasn't been easy on it either, which leads me to my next question. So if there was a person out there watching this and you could ask for a want for MakerSpace, what would that be?
So I know the exact answer, and thanks for asking that. What I've always done in the past is I've subsidized the MakerSpace with my own entrepreneurial things. So I'll take on projects and we'll do corporate training and innovation days and whatever we can do to make some money, and then we distribute that over the course of the year and keep things going. But at one point 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago, we won the Google Impact Challenge. So we got $125,000, and that helped us to run our program for a year and really focus. But I still found myself taking on these projects because I do believe that there's value in being, having some sustainable, financially sustainable mechanisms, and having a business model that isn't solely reliant on donors. But what we really need is we need a big brother. So we need a partner. So the successful makerspaces in the world have only been successful because they have a big brother. So if I look at the Barcelona Fab Lab, which is one of the sort of success stories of the Fab Lab network internationally, developed by MIT, rolled out across the globe. We have had Fab Labs in South Africa. We closed them down, and we're sort of trying to do something again. The success of Barcelona is a link to the Barcelona School of Design. Top 5 architecture universities in the world. Master's program, you have to have a credentials as long as your arm to get in there. So because the quality of designers are so high and they need a workspace and they're not residents, they're not locals, they come to the Fab Lab and they use it. And the Fab Lab does this amazing stuff. I mean, like now they're working on sustainable materials. They're doing incredible things, defining what manufacturing is and how it works, and how it's part of a smart city strategy to have a Fab Lab or a open manufacturing space. And the reason that they are able to carry on is because of that sort of that big brother type of support. So the School of Design has plenty of money able to support the Fab Lab. The Fab Lab creates more awareness, more capability, creates value for the institution. We don't have that. So we have the kindest way I can put it is dysfunctional government. And
are you from KZN by any chance?
and the systems of delivery of the intentions are good, the plans are good. I've read the plans. Growth plan, it's great. The fact is we can't execute on it. We don't even know how to make electricity reliable, something we had that we've kind of unlearned. And so we're now trying to solve this problem as big as youth unemployment and sort of competing globally, and we're outgunned, Anyway, I'm not making excuses for government, but I'm saying we don't have that support. So Seed has rolled out a program where they've committed 30 million to MakerSpaces. And I would say some of that credit probably of identifying MakerSpaces, if you trace it back, you'll probably find us there at the roots. So we've done some great work and we've been recognized for that, but we haven't got the benefit of it. So the idea has been, wow, this thing works. Let's roll them out, but don't include us in the program, And so we end up in a situation where we've been self-funded, relying on one-on-one donors, trying to make relationships with people and just trying to do everything. And it's exhausting. And we're kind of getting to the end of that ability of doing that. So we need someone who decides like, we want to work with you, not just on a program. Like we don't just want to do a thing with you this year and give you a bit of money for that thing. Like we actually want to back you and we want to work something with you over the course of years, and let's use you as a R&D case. Let's use you as a, there's got to be shared value, but someone who has the resources can find the value quite easily. Whereas we have to go and like literally roll up our sleeves, go and do something to make money so that we can come back and then teach people with that money that, doing two jobs at once. So long story short, we would like a partner who sees the benefit of having this creative space, having this test bed of innovation, this very grassroots, very bottom up, not like the same tech. I mean, the amount of money you have in this panel here probably would buy all of our equipment. But because of that, we're also very good at innovating and looking at the root cause of what actually do you need. It's not about how fancy your equipment is. What are you actually trying to do? So yeah, that's the kind of the long answer. Obviously, that's a dream scenario. As a second place, just people who want to use us to do things for them. So the things we're good at, inspiring people around innovation, inspiring people around sustainability. For me personally, helping with some of the technical innovation stuff, going in and chatting with the board and helping them see some of the opportunities out there in a changing world. They're locked in with their world and their problems. And I've had the privilege of educating myself over the last 8 years on what the rest of the world's doing and how, and continue to educate myself in that. So maybe like helping join those dots, bringing some value in terms of innovation. And then I'm trying to get better at just pinpointing like what I do and not like bouncing all over the place. So sometimes people come with good intentions. They're like, here's the thing for you. And it ends up taking you, on a tangent. So the two big projects we've got at the moment, all around enterprise development, all around trying to help people to ultimately make something of value that they can sell, that they can, be employed and self-employed. Sustainability, so, innovative waste design, and research development, product development, business development. And then actually the ceramic 3D printer that we've developed over the last 3 years. We just put so much into that that we're hoping that we can turn it into something.
What do you what's a typical product for the ceramic printer?
So I think we're going to, the strategy will be to go very high end. So, the Tesla strategy, what was it? The Sportster?
The Roadster, yeah.
Roadster. Very high end product, low volumes, can put a lot of time and energy into those things. You don't have millions of customers shouting at you, so you can make some money and build some capability, learn some stuff. And then you go to the Model S, which is now slightly broader, still premium, and then eventually you go to the, Model 3 or whatever, and then hopefully whatever's next, something we can afford in South Africa. So that's kind of the way I think we would go with this project is start with the high end products, and something that would be niche. So it'll be like interior designers and galleries and people who luxury lifestyle brand. And then once we develop that capability, it's digital manufacturing, so it's additive manufacturing using 3D printing technology. We want to connect that, like we've talked about, connecting all dots so that we can have remote management and we can have standardization globally, and we can have distributed manufacturing. So if you order it in America, you buy it, it's made in America. If you order from Europe, it's made in Europe. Order from South Africa, it's made in South Africa. And I think that's an interesting project as an experiment, but also as something that could be a viable business. Yeah,
sounds interesting. Especially if you like you say, targeting a niche Roadster client. I think it can work if you make the right aesthetically looking, pleasing.
So what we've managed to do already is to build a network of designers. So we sort of also had this intuition that would be, when we talked about the wallet, we realized the design was one of the unlocks and the pricing was another one. And so when we started doing the ceramic, we're like, okay, we need design. Like we can design stuff. But it's kind of like engineering design. And so there's people who spend all day long just thinking about design, thinking about forms and what they should say about meaning about the world and all that stuff. And that's not us. So let's find those people and let's get them to collaborate. And what's nice is when you're doing something new is that there are a lot of people out there who want to experiment with new things. So we've got the world is our oyster, we can almost get hold of, any up and coming designer, any sort of international designers, and say, here's a really interesting thing we can do together. You bring your part, this is our part. What we don't have yet is the market, access to market. So that's the part we've got to build, or we've got to find partners to plug that into. And then I'm sure once we get all that right, we'll find that there's a whole lot of other things we also got to do.
Of course.
But well, I'm hoping the Odin system we can use that as a test case.
I didn't want to say it, but I hope so too. And I hope somebody's listened to your ideal want, and we can help further your vision because I think it's amazing.
And third place would just be like a salesman. So if you've got someone who can just go out and just repeat that everywhere. Because I do think that we've done good work, we've got credibility, and there is value. And I do think that there are people who want to support that, but it's just we might not be the best people at joining those dots.
I think sales is a underappreciated art form. I've had to try and sell stuff. It's not so easy.
No, it's not. But again, if you do it all day long and it's what you're good at and it's your genius, then you probably, let's build a team.
100%.
The last question that I have for you is talking about the potential in 4IR technologies, especially within the context of South Africa and with the high unemployment rate. You speak a lot about the gig economy, right? I just wanted to ask you, from a youth perspective, how sustainable is that? Because from the way I'm understanding it, if you're going to have a couple of gigs as income, you don't have a salary advice, and it's very difficult to start a life without those papers that can prove credibility. So how sustainable is the gig economy for a young 23-year-old who is unemployed?
I mean, I think it's the biggest opportunity that we have. Like, in a nutshell, that's what I believe. So as I said, if you do the numbers, there's far more work out there than there are unemployed people in South Africa. If you had to shut the borders of South Africa and say we've got to solve our problems within our borders, then we have one hell of a journey and one hell of an uphill battle, which we're probably not going to succeed at. Certainly some of our ideas can help, but it's just such a big problem. But if you say the world is your oyster, South Africans can do anything. If you look at the amount of remote opportunities there are, the amount of work that needs to be done in shrinking, aging economies, people are getting older and no new people coming through. And as the world gets more connected and digitized, it means we can do more and more remotely. So for me, I think that's really what we should be aiming at. Like, we should be trying to teach people not to go and sell something at the taxi rank. We should be teaching people how to sell something online. How do we design, how do we upskill? So in my ideal world, like, my solution to youth unemployment would be give everyone a decent laptop and free internet. And then, like, you're kind of on your own. Like, if you can't work it out from there, come to a seminar, we'll teach you, give you an idea. But really, the world's your oyster. As far as like the traditional modes of success, I think most people, if you offer them the opportunity to give them two realities, right? One reality is arrive at work 7:30, clock out at 4:30. Maybe you got to work overtime. You got a boss you don't like. You got bad coffee in the office. You're not close to your favorite coffee shop and food. You grind it out all day with people you don't like, and come home, and then you get to live your weekend. That's your one option. The other option is you can live 3 times the standard, like what you're living now. So you're earning equivalently in a local economy 3 times more. You can live on the beach. You can work on your computer when you feel like it. You can go and visit all the places you want to be. You can connect when you want to connect. Which reality would you choose? So
it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. So the digital nomad is an opportunity. But even if we don't have to go overseas, like, we already have a fairly low kind of minimum living cost. I mean, it's not as low as in other countries, and it's definitely not as high as, say, living in Europe or living in America. But if we can tap into a much higher valued currency where labor is very expensive, and we can distribute that here, I think we're going to win. So that would be like my kind of easy answer, like, is give everyone a laptop, access to the internet, and then let's get serious about connecting those opportunities. So I've done a little bit of browsing on some of these sites and try to set up profiles. It's quite technical. There's a whole art to it,
Yep.
So maybe we could have some investment this side saying, let's make that part easy. Let's build these brands, that provide certain services. Let's curate, get people started. And once they're going,
Yep.
Stephen, thank you very much for joining us. I learned so much from your conversation, and I'm very empowered as a young person. The question that we sort of ask all the guests who come to the show is, what do you want your legacy to be?
So if you go to my Twitter status, I might have changed it recently, but there's a quote there, and it says, "Dad, are you going to change the whole world or just South Africa?" And that's what my son asked me a few years back. I kind of feel like I haven't achieved that, which is quite disappointing. But the fact that he's asking that question, at least I know I've achieved something in his life, So, legacy can be a vanity thing. I think what you're asking is, if you boil it down in a nutshell, is like, are you living your purpose? Are you doing the thing you're made to do? Whether the world recognizes it, whether your name's up in lights or not. Like, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you go like, yes, I did something meaningful today. I did the best I could and I made an impact in someone's life. That should be enough. Everything else is like, I mean, you're born with nothing, you die with nothing. But at the same time, I'm a man, and I do want to see impact. And I do often get frustrated that we don't have enough scale of impact. I feel like, sometimes I feel like I've got all the answers, and then other times I feel like I must have no answers because like no one's listening to me, or people listening to me, but they're not doing, they're not putting their money where their mouth is. So I think we do live in an environment, in a country, in an economy where there's a survivor mentality that underlies, a lot of our daily life. And we might talk about helping people, but then at the end of the day, we're like, we got to be okay first. We've got to survive. And I think if we could, find a way to unlock that and be a bit more generous and a bit more willing to share, whether it's whatever we have. We have knowledge, we have resources, we have, time and a listening ear. Sometimes that's all you need. So for me, legacy would be ideally people could look back and say, yeah, I remember South Africa used to have that terrible youth unemployment problem, but like, remember that crew of people, one of them being Steve Gray. Yeah, like they had some good ideas, that those things worked out. We figured it out, I think just kind of opening the doors for people to express themselves in a creative way, in a way that empowers them, in a way that like meaningfully impacts their life, and then just timesing that by more and more.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Steve, thanks a lot.
Cool.
Really appreciate your time.